What's up, everybody? Welcome to my latest episode of my rock reviews. The al- the album I'm about to review today is David Bowie's eighth studio album, Diamond Dogs, released in 1974 on RCA Records. Singles album is known for Rebel Rebel, Diamond Dogs in 1984, and David Bowie he produced this whole album. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is actually the first album he self-produced, but yeah. So a little disclaimer. I had originally planned on doing this review as far back as 2016, but you guys should know that I recently obtained a copy of this album in Barnes& Noble. I love Barnes& Noble and shit. Um, Dope books, dope CDs and vinyls and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, got a surprise rock album I could be getting very soon, so stay tuned. But anyway, yeah, but I really wanted to get the album so I can actually just review it, cause I'm just picky like that. And I finally found this album in stores, and it was for about $22. I was like, yeah, fuck it. But anyway, you guys should know who David Bowie is. He was, rock artist. I reviewed Hunky Dory, Ziggy Stardust, Aladdin Sane, and Station to Station, which I believe Station to Station is his magnum opus. But yeah, so Diamond Dogs. Where do I begin with Diamond Dogs? Okay. So after the release of Aladdin Sane, let me see something. Excuse me real quick. Well, actually, excuse me. He recorded after the release. He actually started recording this album after Ziggy Stardust out, after the retirement of Ziggy Stardust and shit. So he had dropped the Pinups album the same year, '73, which was just like a a cover album. Just a cover album of songs from like Pink Floyd, Yardbirds, and Kinks, and so on and so on. Which, low-key, I have never heard that album. And I'll probably like to revisit the album once I review some later David Bowie albums and shit. So, yeah, just to let you guys know. Also, like around this time, he co-produced and mixed the Stooges' landmark album Raw Power. And around that same time, he was actually getting close with Iggy Pop and shit. Raw Power being like a very dope album, probably my second favorite Stooges album. And yeah, excuse me. And so that same year in '73, he broke up like the Spiders from Mars and shit like that, because he just wanted to like move on from that shit. And he at that time, I think he said like the Ziggy Stardust performance that came out in theaters like in 1983. He had said like this was his last performance, inferring that it was Ziggy Stardust's last performance and shit. So yeah, and around that time, and shit like that, he had moved back to the U.S. and shit like that. Most prominently, staying in New York City, and he was very influenced by a couple of things during the making of Diamond Dogs. As evident, this album was based on the classic George Orwell book, 1984, where it talks about like I believe 1984 being like the apocalyptic world and shit. Very dope book. I don't have a copy of that book, but I've heard like very dope things. I read some excerpts from it. So yeah, and also because like he wanted to base this album off that book and shit like that. And so what ended up happening, if I'm not mistaken, was he wanted to actually make a movie. Wanted to make a movie based on 1984, but George Orwell's widow, I think she kind of like vetoed that because she held the estates to the rights of the book and shit. So I thought that was pretty interesting and shit. And in certain songs, you see him flirting with like the funk and soul, which I'm going to talk about that when I'm reviewing this album and shit. So yeah, okay. So This was his first album without the Spiders from Mars and shit like that. First album without the Spiders from Mars and shit. So the personnel of this album would include David Bowie on lead and back on vocals, guitar, saxophone, synthesizer, mellotron, Mike Garson on keyboards, Herbie Flowers on bass guitar, Tony Newman on drums, Ainsley Dunbar on drums again, Alan Parker on guitar in 1984, and Earl Slick guitar on Rockin' On With Me. Both dope guitarists and shit like that. Earl Slick and Alan Parker. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Mine was skipping a little bit. Okay, so this is the album cover right here and shit. Very iconic cover, like in David Bowie. And like if you're a David Bowie fan, you've seen this picture a couple of times and shit. Yeah, so let me see something. Yeah, mind you, this is actually the first time I'm actually opening this since I bought it, so this is my first time seeing everything. Yeah, this is supposed to be like the afterworld, like 1984 is like supposed to be like based on and shit. And like, yeah, this is David Bowie's feet. Okay, so let's see, 11 songs. Well, technically 10 songs, which I'll talk about in a minute. Alright, let's get this shit started. Track number 1, Future Legend. That's like a little short kind of interlude and shit like that. Show a little interlude where his voice is all distorted, and it's like he's envisioning like what his apocalyptic world would have been like and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Track number 2, Diamond Dogs. Diamond Dogs, that being like the longest track on the album. That song actually introduces his new persona on this album called Halloween Jack. And Halloween Jack was like supposed to have been, the way Halloween Jack was described was, how can I put this? How can I put this? I'm sorry. But yeah, he's supposed to be like this like cool kind of persona and shit like that. Yeah, this was a pretty cool song. One thing you need to pay attention to when listening to this song specifically was the heavy influence of like like it came the guitar riff had like a Rolling Stones kind of vibe to it and shit, which Bowie kind of noted himself. So I felt that was pretty interesting and shit. And I think ironically, I believe on Aladdin Sane album, he had a cover Let's Spend the Night Together. Pretty dope cover. Track number 3 through 5, Sweet Thing, Candidate, and Sweet Thing Reprise, which is kind of like a medley. I'm gonna begin with Sweet Thing. That's possibly like my favorite song off the album alone. This song has like one of like his vocally best, in my opinion. Features at the lowest note like Bowie had recorded on a studio album and shit. Yeah, very dope song. Like, let me pull up some of his lyrics I want to pull up. Like, he said some shit like, some shit like, it's safe in the city to love in a doorway, to wrinkle some screams from the dawn. And isn't it me putting pain in a stranger like a portrait in flesh who trails on a leash? Will you see that I am scared and I'm lonely, so I'll break up my room and yawn. Like, I always loved when he spells out that will you see that I'm scared and I'm lonely, so I'll break up my room and yawn. And I run to the center of things, like feeling like he's breaking himself and shit like that. You don't know how to react and shit, you know what I'm saying? So, fucking dope song. I love Sweet Thing. Then it leads right into Candidate, which is like the middle part, and that's like a more rocking kind of song and shit like that. And then it kind of ends off with like a reprise of Sweet Thing. So very dope medley and shit. Track number 6, Rebel Rebel. This song, which is a noted fan favorite and shit like that, is perceived by some to be a goodbye to his glam rock day era and shit like that. And ironically, it was actually written for a supposed Ziggy Stardust musical that was supposed to have come out in '73 and shit. So Rebel Rebel, dope song, kind of like a little song people like to talk about at that time. If you question like his sexuality and shit like that, you know. This song actually, he famously retired this song in 1990 during like the Sound and Vision tour, but he somehow brought like new versions of it back in live performances in the future. But like, you know, a lot of people kind of wanted him to like perform this song in because it's like a fan favorite and shit. So I thought that was pretty interesting right there, Rebel Rebel. Track number 7, Rock and Roll With Me. That song features War and Peace, which was, you know, a play on with War and Peace. He's David Bowie affiliate, also done some work with like Iggy Pop and shit. That's like a little power ballad, you should say, and shit like that. It features like the protagonist, supposed to be like based off like how the protagonist Winston professes like romantic love and sexual desire to Julia and shit like that in a way. So yeah, I felt that was pretty okay song and shit. Also with the song Rock and Roll With Me, if you really pay attention to the beginning, the piano in like the beginning of the song, it's like a nod. They're paying homage to like Bill Withers' Lean On Me and shit like that. Again, like I said, he's influenced by soul music and shit. So then we get to We Are the Dead. Very dope song right there. It starts off what's supposed to be like a ballad and shit like that, like in the same vein of, you know, Rock and Roll With Me, but it then turns into like this like piano driven kind of like sedity and shit like that. So very cool song and shit like that. That's a song I wish like more Bowie fans like would cite and shit like that. And that leads into 1984, which is another very cool song, very dope song. That song right there, definitely a precursor to like the funky soul sound, especially like with the guitars and the bass and shit like that. And that song was actually like originally intended for, of course, the stage musical of the novel, as evident with the title. So yeah, that's probably my second favorite song off this album and shit. Very cool song. Track number 10, Big Brother. Another dope song as well. Song kind of reflects back to the ending of 1984 and shit like that, where like Winston is being brainwashed. He's successfully being brainwashed by the Big Brother and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? To live by his order. A song that's very, of course, that song's like very relevant today. Like, look what's going on with fucking politics, you know, especially with this whole Donald Trump, like Make America Great Again and shit like that, you know. But that's another story for a different day. Track number 11, Chant of the Ever Circling Skeletal Family. Interesting title. That song right there was like basically just like them chanting like it's like a little chant and shit like that, saying brother, shake it up, move it up and shit. And it's kind of like saying that, you know, he's succumbing to like a brainwashing and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So very good direct reference to the 1984. And that's all songs on this album. My honest opinion, this is another very good album. In my opinion, is not as good as Aladdin Sing, in my opinion. But this album was definitely one of David Bowie's most important albums and shit like that, because it also reunited him with like Tony Visconti and shit like that, who of course he worked with Bowie, and I think the last time that they had worked together was on the man who sold the world, and he did like the string arrangements for this album. But like it was supposed to like been like his glam swan song. Like he's not doing the whole glam rock shit no more. But for an album like that, like it had a very apocalyptic end of the world feel to it, which he tied that perfectly with the influence of like 1984, the novel. Very dope, very original and ahead of its time, especially for like 1974, because like also another rock album that like took influence from like novels was like Pink Floyd, Animals, where they based it off Animal Farm. Album I need to definitely do a long overdue review on. But yeah, this album right here, a very classic album in my opinion. This album been re-released a couple of times too, so it's still in print. And yeah, David Bowie, Diamond Dogs and shit, and you must have your collection. Alright, so I made a slight error. I'm gonna try to do the Fugees Blending on Reality review tomorrow. It's just that I thought I'd put it for tomorrow, but I was just kind of like caught up on some shit. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to the Speaker Clout podcast, Ricardo, Mike, Steven, Tribe, Ross, and shit like that. And in case you guys want to leave a donation, it's gonna be $ Reginald Thompson for reviewing albums and shit like that. So peace.